Welcome to the History Workshop series. Today we're going to talk about themes, trends, and context. Historians search for patterns and connections between events to better understand how the past unfolded. The way that they do this is by identifying themes and trends within the context of an event. To identify a theme is to identify a topic that appears again and again over the course of a period of time. In our daily lives, we experience videos and subjects that are trending, and identifying these patterns in historical topics is essentially the same thing, but in a different context. So keep this concept in mind as you're doing your own projects and trying to identify themes. For the purposes of this workshop, we are going to use the topic of the Titanic as our example. So let's say that you're studying the sinking of the Titanic. You start by investigating survival rates. As you move through reading various primary and secondary sources on the subject, you notice that the topic of class comes up several times. Exploring this theme can help you better understand the survival rates on the Titanic. So let's dig a little deeper on this and look at how to approach this. After you have identified a theme tied to your chosen historical event, you can begin to look for trends to further understand who survived the sinking and why. This is an important piece of information if we hope to understand the significance of the Titanic and understand why this event so captured the public's imagination both then and now. Again, think of trends as historical patterns. While history does not repeat itself, though it often feels like it does, patterns can be detected. To understand the survival rates on the Titanic, we want to look at historical patterns involving class. When looking at class, we realize that prior to the sinking of the Titanic, one social and economic class in Europe was extremely rigid and limiting to those in lower ranks. One's place in society typically determined the quality of life one experienced, how one interacted with people of other classes, and how one was judged by others. On the Titanic, first, second, and third class passengers experienced drastically different traveling accommodations, and they were segregated. First class passengers could move about the ship as they liked, but second class passengers could not wander into first class, and third class passengers had to remain in their designated area. More significantly, once the ship sank, one's chance of survival improved depending on one's class. First-class passengers received the best chance of survival, and in some cases, third-class passengers were barred from even reaching the lifeboats. People of all classes died, but the heaviest loss of life was among the lower classes, and it could not be ignored. By studying historical events and patterns regarding class, we can better understand how, as the Titanic sank, first-class passengers had a better chance of survival. Whenever we examine the past, it is important for us to understand the world in which the event took place, and not by our social standards, but of the social standards of people at the time. This is the context. Our goal is to understand the events that led up to a historical moment. Think of it as understanding the cause and effect of an event. To accomplish this, we also need to examine the world in which an event took place. Consider what we know about worldviews. We know that the circumstances one has experienced in life can affect the way in which one views the world. And as a result, each person has his or her own unique biases that influence their understanding of the world that they live in. Like us, people of the past had different worldviews and social biases constructed in the same manner as ours are. They looked upon the world around them in a different way than we do as a result of the times that they lived through. And we must take that into consideration in order to understand their decisions. So, how do we find historical context? Well, we must ask several questions. One, we want to know what was going on in the world at the time that the event occurred, and what type of society did the event take place? What was popular opinion on the subject at the time? Who were the key players in the event? What would the society and or key players in the event stand to gain or lose as a result of the event? Where did the ideas that led to the event came from? How was life after the event different from what life was like prior to the event? With these simple questions, we can begin to construct the historical context of any given event. Thanks for joining me, and have a great evening.